So it looks like Fenn actually made his document, and we're going to go over it. I'm going to give my opinions on it, and I'm going to give my own opinion about what happened in general, and I guess that's going to be it. So he released a 40-page document, and we're just going to kind of look over it together. So he wants to go over the AI stuff, and he goes, back in February, Ross responded to my document where he claims on X Twitter to have experimented in the early stages when he created his YouTube video in 2022. He claimed out of 600 pieces, only 5 pieces had AI influence. I think that needed to be pointed out that his first statement was only posted on Twitter and Blue Sky, the 2 platforms with the least engagement and visibility. I will agree with that. He should have posted it on his YouTube channel. But at the same time, you know, like, I don't know, I kind of get it. I get it. Ross also claims that in this statement that he does not understand enough about the conversations around AI, but there's clear evidence that proves that this is not true. He asked me personally, but also had conversations about AI with his close friend, including Beazle. Alright, these DMs were posted on my Twitter, but may have been lost along the way. And this says here, Beazle says, they're training AI off of specific artists like Sam does art, and they stole his art style basically, using all of his works that are online. Something that we originally thought was a neat tool for artists has become a straight up theft, and people are getting rich off of it. The selfie app came out and made millions in a month, for example. This is AI. And Ross says, damn, what the fuck? AI is blowing up right now so hard. And Beazle goes, AI is going to ruin us all. This is the new version of Stable Diffusion called Waifu Diffusion or Novel AI. Or it might be Unstable Diffusion. There are several new models that are built to do anime. And they're stealing your work too. Ross asked for opinions on his AI statement. He only wanted to post to Patreon. They suggest that he needed to take a clear stance. Because taking the sidelines as a big artist on AI is not a good move. So we kind of went over this already in the first video. So this is kind of like proof that he does know about AI. And he sent Phoenix in 7/24/2024 sent a video to Ross about Yume exposed for using AI. And I don't know if it doesn't look like he watched it. He probably didn't. It's hard to know. It's hard to know. So here, this is a re-go over of his original statement, where if you guys need to see some of the old stuff, you can go back in the former video, or in the last video. Yeah, in the last video. You can go to the last video. I'll link it at the end. And in Ross's second statement, he briefly mentioned AI allegations and claims that he only had experimented. He deleted the images he generated out of fear of the climate of AI. What Ross failed to mention was that he had 24K images left to delete. And he goes, yeah, I've been paying for Midjourney for like a year to generate ideas. I think one of these days we'll save the generations. And then here it says, also, can we resume deleting the Midjourney stuff? Can we make it a goal to get through it by a certain date, maybe a month? I'm at 24K right now. I think we can delete around 3 to 3.6K an hour, so maybe you can put on a show and delete stuff from time to time. Okay, Ross. I mean, he already admitted that he should have walked away from AI, like turned around, but he just wasn't listening. But he did say, hold on, I'm gonna look. This is Ross's document, and it says here, I briefly explored AI in the early concept phase, but I made a clear decision to remove it to ensure the final work is entirely my own. The book is a reflection of my artistic vision. I want to assure you it has no AI in it. Okay, so let's go back over to this. So he shows this right here, these 3 images. This is the sketch, this is the AI prompt, and this is the final version. So let's, right here, it actually shows 4/19/2023 illustration of, and it has his name on it, RossDraws. This was an exclusive metal print for pre-ordering his Nima statue in 2023. Oh, this is what he was talking about right here. So if you pre-order, let's just pretend. We're just gonna pretend, okay? So join a waitlist, and you get this. You could get this image here. Okay, so it shows that there's parts of it that still remained. So it looks like he just painted over it and fixed it. And I've said this before. I know that artists are gonna put AI in their process. I know they are. There's nothing you can do about that. But at the same time, I think he has the skills to paint over it and use it in that way. But you can tell that there's still a lot of the AI in this. Like here's that right here, like he shows the 2 differences. Right here he has this one. You can't even see my mouse, damn it. Okay, so the hands are the same right here. He just changed it to a little bit. He changed it a little bit. He changed the sword, he changed the patterns. I mean, he changed it enough. He changed it enough. And I said before, the only artists who are going to be able to paint over this and make it look good are people like RossDraws, Loish, Sanda's art, those people. They're going to be the only people that are going to be good enough to do this, like top tier professionals. And he said he was like creatively bankrupt at this time, so I guess it makes sense. This was also used at Lightbox 2023 to highlight Ross as an artist alongside his peers. I don't know, like, oh my god, like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, this gives me, okay, like, I know that Ross was creatively bankrupt, and I know he wanted to use AI, and I know he has the skills to paint over AI. I just feel like at this point, if you want to use AI in your process, I feel like you should just say it. Just say it, man. Just, like, you know you're gonna get backlash. Just pony it up. Why let people find out you do it? Why would you do that? I think what it is they still want the artists to follow them and love their content, right? Because they're an artist. And I think that the problem with the artist stuff is that, like, they want their stuff to be pure art, no painting over AI. And then here's this is clearly that's his new icon. Ooh, here's the AI prompt on the right. And then here's the new one on the left. He kept a majority of it. This is the thing that I don't understand. If he had 24K images, did he just want a bunch of stuff for, like, backup so that he could paint over it? He could just continue painting over it? Like I just don't get that part. Like, why did he need so many? I wish that he would have actually talked about that. Like, why did he need so many, and why was he prompting so much? I feel like I need an answer for that. You know, I feel like I just need an answer for that. And they show the whip. All of these had AI prompts, it looks like. And then he changed them to be Spider-Man. There's parts that he left in. I mean, this is kind of what I figured would happen when big artists that are professional would use AI in their prompt, in their workflow. I thought it was going to definitely be like this. But I personally think, in my opinion, that these things along the way, I feel like there's no way this took him more than a few hours, at least. Only a few hours, it had to be. And I've seen this one, and you know what? When I first saw the final version, I was like, you know, this kind of reminds me of AI a little bit. It kind of does. I don't know why, but it did. But at the same time, like, you know what I think it is? Is that it's not personal enough. That's why it looks AI, because it's like random girls standing in front of a hallway that, like, it tells a story, but why couldn't he put Nima or one of his other characters in this? Like, that's kind of what I'm meaning, like random character. The 3 image above had been sold during conventions during his break from social media. Here's the AI prompt here. I wonder, you know what I wonder? I wonder when he was prompting, if he was prompting his own style. I bet he was. And he has a tutorial. So I wanted to mention something about Ross's tutorials. I bought one, and I have some from when I was on his Patreon. And when I bought his tutorials, it's actually not the full thing. It's halfway done. It starts at, like, I can see that there's an underpainting, like a deep underpainting somewhere underneath everything, because at some point you can see that it's barely there. You can see that there's an image there, like his original image that he was painting over, that he might have sketched over, but it's definitely there. But because of how his process works, kind of like where he'll keep on layering on top and then flattening, layer on top and then flattening, and keep changing it as he gets over time. It's not like us. Well, not like us. I mean, it's not like me where I'll put a sketch and then flats and then do that. His workflow it's different, and usually he needs a reference to start with. And I mentioned it before, that's why he's gotten in trouble, because he doesn't want to credit his references. And I think painting over AI is, like, not low tier. I don't know how to explain it. I think painting over AI and then making it good is kind of like, for us, that would be like putting together a complicated sketch and then putting it to flats, because he needs something to go over. And when it's almost done on the right hand side, when you look at the one on the left hand side, yes, it's different, but in majority it's kind of still the same. He didn't really need to change that much. Like, he just changed a little bit of the trees, he kept some of the stuff here, he changed some of the background, he probably cut around Nima, like all this, cut around this, and then he replaced all the stuff that was there. And maybe those took like 2 hours, maybe. Same with this one. I feel this is a little bit, I don't know. It's another one of those AI pieces where it tells a story, but it's like he has so many characters that he could have put right in that spot, but he didn't. That's what I'm kind of meaning, like generic character. Like, I know there's another artist named like Derek Sozu, the Sozu. I don't know how to say it. I don't remember the name. But his work is what he'll do, these like very detailed backgrounds, like city backgrounds or whatever, and then he'll just draw a generic character in the front, like living in the moment. But he's not known for his character work. Dude is known for like his elaborate backgrounds. And I mean, he is putting these things, so it's like he is putting these things on his Patreon. And this is the thing that I said, was that like when it comes to like artists using AI, I don't think you should be selling the work. I just don't think you should be selling the work. And he is selling the work. World's Moment package new, and I'm sure that it was easy to find these prompts because all you had to do was go look at the main Midjourney thing. Oh, here we go. The images above that were released on Patreon as tutorials are now on his website being sold as a tutorial package. These images are important because he's not only selling you the final images, but the process itself. In some cases, the AI may have influenced more of the final than we were let on. Again, I want to remind you that these are just a handful. There's many more artworks that have AI use. For the next part, it's important to know that Gen AI can have models meant to replicate and prompt another one's style. We already know this. But here's screenshots of Ross making a conscious decision to feed images into Midjourney, especially from other pro artists and IPs, to guide his creative process and style while claiming it as his own. Can I make this bigger? No, I can't. But hold on. We're going to zoom in a little bit. Alright, zoomed in. Let's look at this. Well, I mean, it does have RossDraws. Let's see. That's 2024. And he has Fire Emblem Heroes, Yone Yame, Arcane, TB Choi. Ooh. Take note that Ray17 and TB Choi have both collaborated with Ross in the past. Ray was the layout editor for Ross's Nima book and also joined in with the art collaboration video. Video is time-stamped, celebrating the launch of his book. TB Choi was a guest lecturer on Ross's digital art boot camp that started in 2021. Oh, in lesson 9? Okay. Oh, and this is 125? Oh, 1/2/25. So he put in Princess Mononoke. Let's see what fast stealth. He probably has a top-down aesthetic, landscape, painting, film shot, grass, Ghibli, Makoto Shinkai film, paint really detail. Why did he want the grass? A folder with the AI images from above. Let's look. Oh, we can just look at them, but we already looked at them. Let's see. Alright, so that's the AI stuff. So let's talk about, he says, am I really a stranger? Now, those screenshots that Ross had were really strange to me. And it did feel like he was very pushy, but we're gonna look at this a little bit. Ross spent a good majority of his video to paint me as someone he doesn't know all too well. He claims to have taken a chance with me only after Lightbox 2023, but this is further than the truth. I have been to Ross's house before Lightbox 2023, the scenario in the screenshot. He didn't mention this, and as assumption was made as if I was forcing my way into his home, but I've already been there before. I have his number. He gave it to me last year. I was a Twitch mod for his editor. I don't know if this means what it means. I had friends that also became his employees and are friends. I'd be responsible for hosting games with his subscribers on his Twitch stream. Oh, it's almost like, I'm not saying an assistant, but it's giving assistant-ish vibes. I'd be responsible for hosting games with his subscribers on his Twitch stream. I would not be doing this with someone I didn't trust. You guys know how I am about, trust. I am not some nobody or obsessed fan trying to pry my way in. Ross chose to bring me in his circle from 2020 onward, not when he claims late 2023. Here are my friends and I with Ross after his place, Anime Expo 2022. So here's all of them. I'm assuming, I don't know which one's him, maybe this one, or maybe one of these guys back here. Below is a screenshot to highlight my dynamic with Ross. Ross says, wow, what's your Snapchat? I want to see the rave snaps. He goes, I don't use Snapchat anymore. I guess I'll add you to close friends, I guess. He goes, let's go. I hope you get white girl wasted. He goes, nah, did I tell you so-and-so is moving in? And he goes, in 2021, he was asking him to play Apex or anyone. Let me get rid of game 1 on my Switch so I can play Apex. So he did know this guy. You know, I'm gonna put on my hat for a sec. Do you think that maybe Ross thought that like they weren't friends this whole time, and because they didn't meet in person, but they met in person in 2022? Like, I'm curious as to when, like, seeing these screenshots in 2021, like as a person who also is a content creator, and like people talk to me in my Discord, I would play games with some people in my Discord, and I would consider a lot of the people in my Discord to be acquaintances, and some of them are my friends. And I would think only the people who I would message or reach out to would be friends I would actually do anything with. Like, I have like my friend Dragon, who's like one of my moderators. Like, he's like my friend. I would feel that it's almost that type of relationship. So I don't know why he's saying that like crossed a barrier with him. Like, but boundaries are boundaries, you know? I feel like there's something not being communicated properly between them, or maybe Ross didn't see that friendship as meaningful. But you invited him to your house after Anime Expo? Like, you wouldn't invite somebody you didn't think was like a friend. But I feel like Ross could say, well, he was an acquaintance and I felt like I had to invite everybody. I'm trying to like tinfoil hat here as to how Ross would go, we're not friends. He'd play games with them, gave him power over stuff with his subscribers. So he's clearly a trusted individual. You don't just trust acquaintances with power. You trust friends with power. Like, I would never give someone who just joined my Discord and has been talking for a little bit and I know them for like a month and they barely speak in my Discord power over anything with my subscribers, like in my chat or whatever. I wouldn't do that. I don't know. What do you guys think? So let's see. You can play this character. You can play, and then they mention a person. You want to go, Fenn? If not, I'll take it. Give a second. There's another person in between. I haven't played with you yet. Fenn, you can come hang with us though if you want. This server had a catastrophic Among Us phase back when, and it should stay there. He goes, fuck off, Fenn. Bro, what the fuck? Wow, not even Fenn. Bro, what did I do? I ping you sometimes for Apex. There it is. You're in Vegas, quick drive, room with Fenn. You paying for my trip? You sure that's a good idea to put so-and-so and Fenn in the same room? 18 plus. I wonder how it will be like to meet Ross. Do not disturb. Ross, oh my god. That's not what we meant, you bitch. Double do not disturb signs. We mean fight. I did go look at this little thing, this little clip here. And here's another thing from 2022. Do you follow the law of one? Yes. Bro, I am a vault of spiritual information. What are they talking about here? This is a little bit like this to me. Getting into some deep spiritual shit right here. I'm really into it. I feel like it makes sense in the whole universe bit. If you need any spiritual guidance or advice, I'm here. I didn't study this shit for nothing. So he's giving... So I'm not going to go over this whole thing. This is in 2022. Ross is asking him for spiritual advice. And they're having like a deep talk about this. Clearly a deep talk. And it says here, this is one of the conversations we've had on our spiritual beliefs. I'm showing these screenshots because they'll be important for the mental health retreat portion below. Most of my friends know what my spiritual beliefs are, and unless I was in a church or religious place of worship, I don't think it's common to share one belief with strangers. That is true. That's true. I don't say anything like that to anybody unless I'm like very close with them, because I don't want to offend nobody. You just don't want to offend people. Alright, so the mental health retreat process. So like, okay, listen, Fenn, it's up to Ross to think what Ross needs, even if we don't agree with that. If Ross thinks that this is a place that can help him. It does say here that it's not a substitute for psychotherapy, and people have said the process is an important addition to the therapeutic experience, and many psychotherapists use the process as complementary adjunct to therapy. So I'm thinking that okay, all right, this is not no tinfoil things, but the way that I deal with stuff is that if someone doesn't want to go to therapy, they'll find things that are therapeutic that might be cheaper than talking to somebody, especially if you're not that person that wants to talk to somebody. So maybe he thought this would be a better way of dealing with that instead of going to a therapist. Me personally, he probably should have gone to the therapist if he was having all these issues. That's not up to me to decide. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying anything about his mental health. It's up to him how he deals with it. That's what I have to say about that. Alright, so I feel like I'm gonna read this. Both Ross and I are only talking about mental health from both of our experiences. Any questions you have around mental health and the practice involved should be discussed with a mental health care professional. I'm not gonna read that. You guys know all that shit. I'm not doing that. I come from a religious background where faith healing is a common belief depending on the circumstances. When I left the church, I went down a new rabbit hole and became very accustomed to chakras, shamanism, and energy healing. They can provide a sense of emotional and mental support, but they shouldn't be used as a primary form of healing. Okay, this is a big disclaimer. A personal experience I had: contracted Lyme disease during the pandemic, and seeing doctors is difficult. The spiritual community told me that I was detoxing from heavy emotions. I was healing, but I didn't buy it and kept pushing for a doctor's appointment. Thankfully, I did, because I had nearly gone to the late stage Lyme and almost lost my ability to draw. That's really sad. It's really sad. This was also a failure on my doctor's part, because I have gone to him multiple times in 6 months only to be taken serious after the 4th appointment. That's true. I believe a lot of my subscribers and people in my Discord know that I tore my MCL and I went to the doctor and they told me that I just had a sprain and that it'll just go away, and they didn't want to treat it until it was a year later that I still had the same problem. And it's moments like this that people push to seek out alternative healing methods. If I had relented, I could have been paralyzed or worse by now. Ross tries to paint this as a way of healing. The website tries to paint itself, but in truth, it's based on a pseudoscience. The thing is this is Ross's choice. He chose this for himself, and that is completely his opinion, his choice to go to a place that's an alternative healing place. I get it. It's just hard for me to be I feel like I can't say anything on this. I just can't. I have nothing to say. It's too hot water for me, so I'm not going to say anything. How people decide to heal themselves is up to them. I think you should go to therapy first and then try alternate methods. That's me personally. If someone else decides to do whatever, that is if someone else decides to go do whatever with their life, that's their life. That's the end of the story. Alright, so let's look at these DMs. Alright, okay, let me give you the real answer in a few hours. I don't want to be impulsive, but I want to. Listen, I don't want to be impulsive, but I won't get far playing it safe. Okay, I will be asleep in a few hours, but I'm high-key going to buy that plane ticket that costs $220. He goes, I also have time off. Ross. I'm not sure yet about the couch thing. Why not? I will bring a sleeping bag and sleep in the corner. See, that is kind of pushy, because it's still a lot hosting, but I think maybe you got to give me time. Ross, at this point, we've known each other for 2 years. You should understand wanting to do big things for your career. I can cook. Okay, I still think this is pretty pushy. I know that he wanted to go. He wanted to go bad, but I still feel it was very pushy. I agree that it looks really bad if it looks from a stranger's perspective. I'm not going to downplay the words that were said, but if you know Ross, he tends to be very forgetful. If something is not on his calendar, not only that, but there's some added context that is being left out. For example, this conversation happened 2 weeks before Con Crunch is real. So for those of you guys who don't know conventions, I used to go to conventions all the time. What happens is there's this thing called the Con Crunch. You meander. Let's say I'm going to Otakon. I'm not going to Otakon, thank God. But let's say I were, and I was going to cosplay. What I would do is I would plan what costumes I'm going to get, that I'm going to make 6 months prior. And then I would, get the hotel, make sure I got a place to stay. And then afterwards, I would slowly work on my costumes. So very slowly. And then I would have maybe 2 or 3 costumes, mostly just 2. And then I would bring an old one. And then the closer I would get, so May is coming up. And August is not that far away from May. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. So I would really start ramping up working on my costumes in May that I meandered around in January. And then in June, I would be working on them every day. And then July, also every day for hours. Now I would lose sleep working on my costumes. And then 2 weeks before, oh my God, I'm probably staying up later than I've ever stayed up before. So 2 weeks before a convention, you're really busting your ass to try to get to the end of it. If you don't have all of your stuff 2 weeks beforehand, it's for example, I would get everyone's money 2 weeks before the con so I could pay for the convention. But close friends, I would let them pay me a week prior or the day prior because. But not having plans that close to convention time, because it's a lot of work, man. Going to conventions, if you're going to do anything that's not just attend, is work. If you got cosplay to do, it's going to be work. If you work a booth, it's going to be work. If you work at the artist alley, it's going to be work. If you do volunteering, it's going to be work. Cons are work. I mean, that's what he says He goes, and how much time you can lose during this lead. There have been moments where I don't really hear from Ross all too much when it's time for cons, unless he needs my feedback or advice on merch and prints. Now think about that. Like, for someone he says he doesn't know, and they're not friends, why would you ask someone you don't know about advice on merch and prints and feedback? Never. With 2 weeks left to Lightbox, between having to plan out logistics, make sure everything is okay on my end, and mixed in with my general excitement as having the opportunity to go to Lightbox, I got carried away. Given the way Ross was responding was no different than how we usually talk, I thought everything was fine. If I generally made you uncomfortable, Ross, I'm sorry, and will note that in my behavior in the future. I mean, true, like, even with Concrete, Ross was like a little bit hesitant, and he just wanted some time to think it over. And I know, it's just miscommunication. It's just miscommunication. So here's the dinner thing. And he goes, so when you buy me dinner, and he goes, will you be in the area? And then he goes, day 288 to 89, until you buy me dinner. To address the DMs, the different days in the dinner question, the different days were a reference to a video where Ross said he had a fan DM him every day for a year, and he responded and drew his OC as a reward. So there is a link here for that character. At this point, Ross had told us he had some characters that were gay. This was before Ross came out. Everyone wanted to know. And we agreed that if I did the same thing, he would reveal all of them. So he's doing day 233, 234, 235, 236. And he goes, getting close. He goes, bet you didn't believe I'd make it this far. Doing what I must for the gays. And he forgot a day, and he goes, fuck me. He goes, you can resume where you left off. He goes, day 356. Is there a goal here? He goes, we'll see. He goes, oh, so it's a whenever you feel like it. Oh, here we go. So we did this for a little bit over a year, and then he got a message from Ross. He goes, I owe you deets. He goes, deets, I'm listening. He goes, because you message. Oh my god, finally. And he goes, so you wish to know the LGBT? There are a few. Give me the LGBTs, bro, I swear. You're either fucking blah 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 blah. Be honest, did you smash? We've talked about our sex life before, especially in the 11th months between these two screenshots. So the way he framed this was disingenuous. These two screenshots below seemed inappropriate because Ross made it seem like we didn't know each other and that we only just started to cross that step during this time period, but I established that we knew each other fairly well at this point. My friends and I talk about our sex life with each other. This isn't that far off from a conversation with friends, including Ross. So Ross, can I ask you a personal question? I mean, I'm going to be polite. He goes, sure. Are you whatever here? And he goes, wasn't expecting that one. He goes, bruh, I think it's too personal for me. Sorry. He goes, shake my head. That's fine. He goes, this was in regard to gay culture. I don't have as much experience with the relationship's intimacy and what is deemed normal. So the question was more or less trying to get another opinion to break down some fears I have. He didn't feel comfortable with it, so I dropped it. So he shows this screenshot here. He goes, it's okay. My rent and utilities is $830 Venmo, Zelle, PayPal. Oh, trust me, I would love to just spend time in Cali all of July, but I'm broke. And he goes, I'll send an invoice to a name. He goes, I'll think about it. He goes, bitch says that he'll think about it. Once I'm there, you know you're gonna cave. Just pay my shit, ho. In my opinion, this was his attempt to make me look rude, aggressive, and an ungrateful fan. This is normal between me and Ross. My friends and I refer to ourselves as bitch and ho all the time. I, however, will not use this language on people I don't know or acquaintances. That is true. I say this kind of stuff to my friends, so I kind of get it. You wouldn't do that to a stranger. Like, if I ever talked to Sam Does Art, for example, I would not speak to him. I wouldn't be like, yo ho, what's up? I'd try to be respectful as possible. This framing is disingenuous. He's shifting the focus from his reaction to me asking for the bare minimum to my language instead. I've attached the beginning of that conversation below. You could judge for yourself and see why Rose chose to show my later messages and not include his earlier ones. Okay, cuz I might keep you for SDCC. When's SDCC? I'll look it up, bro. Well, what? Unless you pay in my July rent, I can't stay the whole month. You get a whole July vacation. It's okay. I've already done the math. And there we go. So he is kind of inferring that he wanted to keep him longer. No. Ross, Fenn, you guys are so catty. So catty. Can you guys chill? Can you both chill? Like, chill a little bit? Like, just a little bit. Like, I get it. You guys had, like so many miscommunication. Like, I can see both sides of this argument. If Ross really believed that this person wasn't his friend, I don't know why he would be talking to this person as much. I don't know why he would give him so much access. I just find it hard to believe that Fenn was only a fan. I'm not a big content creator yet, but if I had someone who was like this to me, I would have considered them a friend. I don't know, man. I don't know. Ross says that he was a acquaintance, not a friend. I don't know. All right. Keep in mind, I'm asking him to pay bare expenses. That wouldn't make things difficult for my roommates if I were to stay a whole month. Below, I just want to further the dynamic in language between me and Ross, as a couple of people thought my use of the word bitch and hoe were off-putting between strangers. And we've seen Ross call Fenn a bitch before. We've seen that too. Trying to do this before AX. Damn, this hurts in a good way. It still needs something else to give that pop though. I know, bitch, I just started. Bro hands me a well-rendered piece and say he just started. Fuck off, it's just a sketch. I love that girl with the afro, my bias. If you need to know anything about music and stuff, let me know. I didn't spend 3 years in music school for nothing. I just think the leggings should be more saturated unless you're gonna go for a desaturated palette because you didn't know who you were sort of thing. Bitch, that orange is orange as fuck. Squint, tracer orange. I'll color pick the shit out of this right now. Okay, you right, I'm just biased. Yo, so-and-so messaged me. I thought you were volunteering at Lightbox, which is the main reason why I'm bringing you. Were you expecting compensation for this one? Sorry for miscommunication. I had some volunteers come up. No, I was just curious. I'm happy to volunteer. I had just thought you wanted to be... I had the thought and wanted to be sure. You're already doing so much. So Lightbox 2023 was unpaid. The issue with Lightbox is that I found out through other coworkers that my coworker for the con was being paid, and I asked about that and I didn't push for it. Ross reached out to me to clear things up. In the process of trying to clear things up by saying he had some volunteers come up, he heavily implied that if I was seeking compensation, he'd replace me with volunteers. And this was the day before I flew out. I was okay with it. I was just asking a question, but it still doesn't sit right to me the way he threatened to take the opportunity away the day before I flew out when the flight was already booked. And now I had rented Airbnb for the day so Ross can have his last day to himself. This is confusing. I think that, you know what I think? I think that Ross is very deeply introverted, and I think that Fenn is very extroverted. And this is a issue where Ross needs more time to himself and doesn't like to put up with anything that's complicated or difficult. And I understand that. He's going to be at a con. He doesn't want anything complicated or difficult. No. I'll be honest. I don't understand what is the problem here. Ross needs people. He wants to pay less for them, but he wants to bring Fenn because he thinks Fenn's going to work for free. I feel that Ross doesn't want to pay for people to work. Like, he doesn't want to pay a lot of people. He doesn't want to pay a lot of money to have people work his booth. He wants to pay the bare minimum. And that's why if someone says that they're going to come to Lightbox and they volunteer and he doesn't have to pay them, that's good for him. But there's just too much with the money stuff for him. It's just too much money stuff. I think he's just trying to cheap out on the help that he gets that are local. He has made it more than clear that he would like to have Fenn there, but he only wants Fenn to come if Fenn can be cheaper than his volunteers that are local. That's what I'm kind of getting from this conversation, because this was before the day he flew out. I was okay with it. I was just asking a question. I don't think he was being snarky. I would like to point out as well that I tried to ask Ross to work for Lightbox 2024 and be compensated for a time, and he declined. Although he stated he enjoyed me working for both Lightbox 2023 and Anime Expo 2024. So he skipped out when he asked him if he wants his help. He just didn't even respond. I think that I'm right. I think it's going to sound like a theory, but I think that Ross wanted to have Fenn come, but only if Fenn is cheaper than his volunteers. And he tries to find volunteers, and only if he can't find good volunteers, like I'm talking like good volunteers, does he decide to go with Fenn and then compensate Fenn for whatever. But for the most part, I think that he just wants to have his workers be as cheap as possible. And if cheap as possible can be pay for exposure, he did say he didn't know how he was expected to help Fenn out and just like push him to people. I think that was just trying to make promises that you couldn't keep and not knowing you couldn't keep them. But they were big promises. To make it clear, let's see what else he's got. To make it clear here, I was only paid for Anime Expo 2024, and then after that, I had to argue with him over payment. He had brought on another helper after day 1 of Anime Expo and offered him payment with no issues or complaints, but when I asked for payment, he responded, "But I can take you far, and I pay people 99% of the time." We ended up having a dispute over this. He did pay me for Anime Expo after our later argument, but refused to bring me back once again once payment exchanged hands. As a friend with experience, I shouldn't have to argue payment, especially if you're so willing to offer payment to other people. I mean, it gets so complicated between friends. Right here it says 7/12/24. He paid him $640. Let's see. You wouldn't happen to have a spare badge for Lightbox I could use? Probably just gonna go Friday, maybe a little on Saturday since I'm visiting a friend that day. Risking it all one more time to see if you have a spare exhibitor badge I can use Friday only. Message Jeff. When it comes to Lightbox, I wanted to borrow it for a day. It was for a couple hours at most. I gave back the badge to him before I left. I was even offered to hang out with him and his group for Halloween, but declined because I had other plans. So even here, he was asked by Ross to hang out. The free badge for other conventions is very misleading because it implies he does this often, but this was only for Lightbox. I knew he had spare badges available because he always orders extra badges for friends to use and cycle through and visit conventions for a bit. At Lightbox 2023, Ross even gave away some of his spare exhibitor badges he didn't need to people waiting in line. Let's see what this is. This is in 2022. Okay, the Patreon trailer goes live today. Can we show you? It's 90% done. Yeah, that moment when you're sharing this to me for 2 seconds of howl. But it's nice, I like it. I feel that you could have shot the opening head on and do a bird's eye view, but you chose to look up for some reason. I'm feeling like that's the missing 10% is the lack of color dodges and explosions at the end. Yeah, bitch, it's 90%. We're gonna add on explosions and color dodge noise. Was the energy of the intro fine to you, or was it too shouty? Because I imagine scrolling. Is it catching or attention grabbing? So even in 2022, he's asking for his opinion. Like, I don't know what, I feel like, would you ask an acquaintance for this type of help? So 16 ways to improve. So that was the list. Now I agree with Ross that there was a better way to handle the 16 ways. I wouldn't have put that in a big I wouldn't have put that in a big text and sent it to somebody. I would have tried to have a conversation about some things that were bothering me, but it seems like not everybody is good with conflict resolution, you know? I just watched Sam Does Art's video on Ross's thing, and there's definitely other ways to go about this situation. I just think that they're just two different people who did get along for a while, but once money started moving into the direction between exchanging friends, it started becoming complicated. That's what I think it is. If you have to start paying your friends to help, paying nobodies is different than paying friends. Because there's a thing where people feel entitled to your work because you're your friend. Well, you're doing me a favor, right? Like, that's kind of how it feels. Like, because friends do favors. And I feel like that's kind of the vibe going here, is that their friendship was friendship until money came into play. I feel like if Fenn never asked for money and he would go to the convention and never ask for anything, I feel that this would have never happened. Okay, so let's go into this a little bit more. During my time helping Ross at Anime Expo, Ross would ask for my opinion, but if it's something that he doesn't want to hear, he'll dismiss me. If I try to bring it up in a different perspective, and his other friends or employees are there, they'll try to fight me on my stance. As an example scenario, that happened at Anime Expo. Ross was upset that his sales weren't as good as he had hoped, and trying to figure out what the problem was and how he could fix it. He asked for everyone's input and I gave mine. A part of me thinks this has to do with your pricing and your inventory. You claimed that your last sale before your hiatus, you'd be getting rid of everything and then come back with all new inventory. So your diehard fans probably have everything they need. New fans probably don't feel like $30 is worth it for a print from an artist they don't know. And then Ross proceeded to cut me off and say that he's worth it, but I'm not talking about being worth it. You told your fans one thing and didn't follow through. We're practically in a recession, so new fans have a harder time to justify spending $30 on a print from an artist that they don't know, which is true. Like, if you go up to a big boy artist, unless you're a fan of that artist, you're probably not going to want to spend $30 on a print of a character you don't know. That is... OCs don't make money. Fan art makes money for a reason. Just saying. And suddenly it was 3 against 1. with everyone telling me how the price shouldn't be an issue because Ross thinks his art is worth it. There's nothing wrong with believing you have value in your art, but you have to meet your audience halfway because at the end of the day, worth doesn't pay bills, your customers do. Ross even tried to justify that his sales were poor because he wasn't in Artist Alley. He claims that's where his people are, but he almost is never in Artist Alley unless it's a new con he hasn't been to, which is rare. Ross is surrounded by yes men, and they will remove anyone that tries to hold him accountable. Everything I mentioned on this list, I've talked to about him in person or online in some capacity, but he just brushes me off. I wanted to come to him again with everything because I believe friends shouldn't be afraid to call out each other. This isn't me telling him how to improve, but have him be aware of his behaviors and how it might impact others, especially since he's always surrounded by people who will only validate him. All right, so as we read this, I still think this is a lot. This is a lot. I think that they should have had a back and forth, and then he could have said something like, hey, I made a list of things that I wanted to go over with you. So either I can show you them one at a time, or I can just show you the whole list, but I don't want it to be overwhelming for you. Like the thing is like, okay, I've come from a crazy life. I've had a very crazy life where a lot of issues took place. And I've learned you have to be sensitive to the other person if you're going to show them something that might hurt their feelings. You have to be sensitive before you even mention that. Like, I understand what Fenn is talking about. He wants to nip it in the bud and be forward and be honest. But at the same time, there is a person on the other side of the screen, and that person might be more you don't know what's going on in that person's head before you send that message. So if you're going to send a message that's going to give them a judgment, you have to think, if it was me, like how would, like I have a little bit too much empathy sometimes when it comes to when I think of others, because sometimes I won't even say stuff because I'm thinking too much of others, but sometimes I do let it boil until it's time to say it. But even then, when it's time to say it, I still try to make sure that it's a good time to talk about it, or maybe talk about it over voice, or a softer conflict resolution type of thing, where the other person isn't overwhelmed. Like this, if this was me, I would be hurt to receive this. I would be hurt. And I'm sure Ross was hurt. He said so himself. It bothered him. It felt like a cut. He felt like it was a boundary crossed. When really, I think what happened was like, Ross was already distancing himself from Fenn at this point because he didn't want to have to pay Fenn anymore. That's just my thoughts. I could be wrong, but don't, take it, my thoughts with a grain of salt. I really think that once money traded hands and once money got involved, that's when Ross wanted to pull back and not use Fenn or have Fenn around unless Fenn was available, unless Fenn was going to be there. Because you could kind of see anytime money is brought up, everything runs to shit. Literally everything. Anytime before that, he's willing to let him moderate, talk to subscribers, ask for advice, get spiritual advice, like all this other stuff. But once it comes to the money, that's the problem. And your friends, this is why I tell people, like, don't, unless you can pay your friends, like, don't have them do anything for you. Like, I've learned even from this, even before this, that this happens a lot, where you get close to somebody and then money comes up where you probably should be paying them for something, and then you don't pay them, and they're gonna take that as a slight because you didn't pay them, and then that's gonna sit in their chest, and they're gonna keep thinking, why didn't you want to pay me? Am I not worthy enough for payment from you? We're friends, and if you want to keep fans at a distance, that's fine. Like, keep them at a distance then. Keep them as distant as you want. But if you're going to let people in your closer circle, maybe those people in your closer circle shouldn't be working for you if you're not going to pay them. Or if you're going to have problems paying them, or you're going to decide to go with somebody else instead of paying them, or whatever, all of the issues that Ross had with this payment issue, because it's clear that there was a problem with paying Fenn. There was a problem paying. It looks like Ross wants to be as cheap as possible, and I fully understand why he wants to be as cheap as possible. But if he wants to be as cheap as possible, don't hire your friends. Your friends know how much you make. Your friends know how much you're worth. Your friends know that you should be paying them more because they're worth it. If you're gonna, like, think about it, anime cons, people don't get paid at anime cons unless they're on they're on the thing for the con, like they're part of the put it together. Volunteers, like the people that you see doing anime cons, they'll get a badge for free, but they have to work the con. They get to do all the other stuff, They get to have fun on their own, but they have to work. They get to work for free. And that's what you get. You get to work for free. And that's a choice. And people will go, oh yes, I'm going to go to this anime con because I'm going to get a volunteer badge and work for free. They still get to go to the con. They still get they get all the con benefits, but they just have to work like 15 hours or something like that. I don't remember, but it's like 15 something hours. And I think that's the same thing. If you want people to work for you for free, then you maybe offer them badges, or like there's ways around what he's trying, what I think Ross wants. I think Ross wants people that don't want to get paid or paid very little, compared to someone like Fenn, who it costs $800 to send Fenn, and it might cost $100 to hire 2 people for his booth. That's a big difference. And there's no like investment in those other 2 people. So I think Ross just didn't know how to deal with this. And what he really should have done was he really should have just said, hey, you know what? We're friends. I would prefer if we stayed friends. I don't feel comfortable trading money between friends. So if you want to work for me, that's fine. But I'm not going to be able to compensate you. But I would really prefer if we did not cross the boundaries into working friendships. Okay, so we're going to read this thing here. I'm sorry I went on that, but we're going to read this. He goes, hey man, this is going to be real blunt, but needs to be said. There are some things that's been on my mind that's been very problematic. I don't want to be a yes man. I'm saying all this because I think it can change. Not to bring you down, but I'm aware that this won't be taken the right way either. Let's see. You kept cutting me off when I said, hold on, how long was this? Okay, so this was a few months, 4 months after Lightbox. You kept cutting me off when I said something you didn't want to hear or just wanted to tune me out. Your download, we're here to support you, everything is for you, is so problematic because this is not true. I'm very spiritual and I believe in all the woo, but if you don't stay grounded, you verge on spiritual psychosis territory. You treat people as actual props to enhance your life rather than people with their own lives and issues. You wanted me to stay in LA for a whole month for San Diego Comic-Con, labeling it as vacation, when I'd be working for you for free, and you removed the opportunity because you didn't want to pay my rent and utilities. $800. My bills don't just take a vacation with me. I had to work overtime for a month to make sure I could afford to go out there initially. You even justified going to dinner with someone because you wanted to talk to someone who loves you, and that will generate good karma. This isn't what people say when they genuinely care for others and the things that they do for them. Stop comparing yourself to Kim Jong-gi. You're not him. He's dead. Let him rest. Your work is nothing close to his. Your audiences are very different. Well, Ross did apologize for that. When Ross explained what he said, I understood what he said. Like, okay, well, we're not even going to talk about that. You're not that guy. You keep trying to be that artist to break the mold and make it big, but you don't even know what that looks like. You keep pushing for all these big milestones, but they didn't even satisfy you and you burnt out. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that he's like trying to do too much? Because Ross himself said he was trying to do too much. Because of that, you're not your true self. You talked about how Nima was your baby and how important she was to you, but you dropped that project for whatever reason. People keep asking about the anime you keep raving about, but I don't think I've heard you mention anything about that statue. You think you're known for world building and OC creation, but you're not. You're known for fan art. The world building stuff is still relatively new, and your designs are starting to come across as the same. Okay, I'm gonna say this. Like, okay, listen, I'm a world builder. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys something. Okay, we're gonna talk about this Ross world building OC shit. Do you guys see this? I'm sure you guys can see it. See all this? This is world building. I have all this stuff I wrote. This is none of it's written with AI. I wrote all of this myself. Look how many documents I have. Most of this written way beforehand. But let's see. Let's look at this one. When was this one written? File information. Let's see. Created 2017. Okay, when it comes to the world building, I don't think Ross world building works. I have not looked at his book, but I think he likes the idea of world building ideas because I feel like there's not enough lore for the amount of world building that he says that he has. I think he just likes the idea of making pretty pictures. And don't get me wrong, I love them. I love his art. I love his OCs. But I don't think that his stuff is as rounded out as it could be because I don't think he knows how world building works. If you guys saw, like you just saw my world building, Ross already came out with a world building book about Nima, and I feel like that it doesn't have enough in it for me. For someone who loves world building, there's not enough for me because Ross's designs are his original designs. But the thing is when you start world building more, and if you guys want advice on world building, go to my other channel. I'll link it. You can follow it there. But if you want to do world building, you start like making other cultures that have other designs in their outfits, even if they come from a same time frame-ish, they're going to look different. Like the people of Addicts are more like Wild West American colonial, and the people in Solstice are more like late Middle Ages French colonial, even though they're both colonial. You know, and then I have a tribal location where there's tribes people. They look different, but I'm getting off topic. Okay, so for 9, the majority of your gardens are essentially naked. The only one that's wearing clothes is the black girl, which as a black person just makes me feel a type of way, especially when you consider the fact that you stripped away her afro features as you developed her design and then gave her more Eurocentric features. She had a fro and a darker skin tone in the initial design, but you made it so much lighter, pushed down her fro to mimic the hairstyle of a lighter skinned woman. I will agree, I did see those designs. I don't know if it's like a problem with dark skinned characters or it's the fact that he wanted to change the design. It's really hard to know the answer to that problem without knowing him more intimately. Your dislike of Sam is being ego-driven and very much narcissistic. You essentially saw him and his growth as a threat, and you didn't like that he had a similar OC, was Asian, and even took it to the point where you didn't want him to be gay because you at least wanted to see the gay thing. Because you wanted the gay thing. You were also so used to being at the top, but it isn't a competition. But the thing is I know that Sam and Ross are friends. So, I mean, I saw what he said, and I'm sure Sam saw what he said. Sam didn't even say anything about that, but I wonder what Sam thought of that, because in his video, Sam is just so, like, passionate, and he's so caring about Ross, and that's what led Ross to make that video. And I think me and Sam are a little bit the same. I don't hate Ross. I think I'm in line with kind of how Sam does art feels, where I think that I know that people are going to do AI in their art now. And I don't think that's a reason I don't think you should harass anyone. But at the same time, I think that if someone does use AI in their workflow and they're getting a big audience, I think you owe it to your audience to tell them this is what you do now and let people decide to choose to follow you or not. Mentioning the gatekeeping people again with Lightbox, you tell me if there's anyone I want to meet just to let you know and you'll introduce me to them. You haven't done that. It feels like you go out of your way to avoid this, which isn't a good look because it's something you offered to do, especially you did it as a form of alternate payment. You were generally mad when I brought up payment but even offered to pay so-and-so without a second thought. Yet you thought saying I can take you far was a valid reason not to pay me, and you've already proven that you won't hold up your end of the bargain. I've already done the work for you, yet that's not good enough apparently. Also, saying I can take you far is quite literally a fancy way of saying I'll pay you an exposure, and you know damn well you wouldn't work for exposure, so why is it okay for me or anyone else to work for you for exposure? I mean, he has good points. At 15, you did your last chance print sale before your hiatus, saying that people may never get the chance to obtain these prints again, and then you came back with the same prints. I tried to explain this to you at AX for why your sales weren't doing so hot, but you kept cutting me off. It feels like because I don't have a big following or a successful business that I don't know what I'm talking about, so you tune me out very easily. But if something is true, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Not saying you have to believe me outright, but actually listen to what people say, and if it's true, it'll stand up to scrutiny. So this is what Ross says in reply. No, to be honest, I appreciate this. Thank you. As you know, everyone's going through their own journey and facing their own challenges. Everyone has their own truth and their very individual path to learn. I felt safe enough to yap around you because I felt a non-judgmental, friendly aura, so I can open up since we're all going through things. Isn't it a nice idea to find someone you feel safe around, to let your guard down, you won't feel judged? That allowed me to yap my fears, ugliness, struggles, and my darkest thoughts, which I often felt that was too far, figuring I don't actually know you. And I definitely noticed the way I was processing you. To use very narcissistic, condescending, and definitely moody, and I apologize. I'm sorry for cutting you off. I treated you like a therapist when I should have done that. I'm 100% not perfect, and I feel like it's a safe place to let go. So I think that hurts the most in not knowing how you felt about this, and then to see all these things you list and you find negative. But I understand from reading this list that once they add all up and you need to express how you feel, and I think it's good to follow your truth, do it. Don't worry, I'm not going to block, unfollow you or anything, since I feel like I'm capable of hearing this and processing this. However, I will need to set a boundary and distance myself from you to protect my space and energy, so I think we should revert back to more distant acquaintances, because asking about my sex life plus asking if I'm fucking my friend is too far crossing the line for me. I was not aware I was coming off, as I didn't want to introduce you to anyone at Lightbox. You're right, we should have discussed payment to avoid any gray areas. I'll hold that one up and do better next time and be more aware. I had the intention to want to help you connect with somebody. if it was in my power, but maybe the concerns took precedent. So if there's a clear opportunity in the future, I will do better. So he just kind of distanced himself. Clearly he felt a type of way about that, which is fair. I'm blunt, I know, my friends. This is the first time I've been blunt with Ross or a friend. This isn't about being perfect though. But at the same time, he laid it on really heavy, really thick, really hard. And I just don't think that was going to do him any favors. That's something you do when you want to end a friendship. That's not something you do when you want to tell somebody they're being toxic. Context matters, and I'm not just some stranger with a list of how Ross can improve so he can meet my expectations, but I know I won't convince everyone. Things to note though, Ross does admit that he saw me somewhat as a therapist, yet the irony is not lost on me that if he saw me as a therapist, why were there these sudden hard boundaries? Let's see. Man, we're almost done, guys. Listen, I've always tried to offer you a non-biased opinion on what people tell me, because I know if the circumstances are right, it's very easy for me and anyone else to end up in the same exact position that we judge people for. And that being said, I will still call out things because not doing it is a disservice to the people I interact with, and if I let things slide. I can understand how it feels to see a list of things about you and get called out, but everything I'd written on this list and everything happened last year. Well, this year. This isn't something that had been buried down deep for years. It's recent, and I did try to confront you and advocate for myself while I was there. I think it's weird to claim that the sex life stuff is your hard boundary when I had only asked about so-and-so last week. The irony is not lost on me that you admitted to treating me like your therapist, but you're uncomfortable with the fact that I asked you about your sex life when you were bragging to me about so-and-so. Oh, there's a black box there. And you kept pushing me to go to WeHo to find guys. It's giving rules for thee except for me. I'm not saying that to argue your boundaries, but it's a little bit hypocritical, especially if you claim you need to protect your space and energy for something I rarely even asked about in all the years I've known you over a subject matter you brought up. I will admit I definitely could have taken it too far, but just like how you admitted to being comfortable enough with me, I thought we were comfortable enough for something like that to be a non-issue. I'm also just like this with everyone. Even when we were all there at AX22, so-and-so ripped on both of us. Either way, I had fun working the booth and meeting fans, but this is where it's at to protect your peace, so be it. I had to call out the hypocrisy over the boundary, because again, no one is perfect. Whether or not you agree with everything is a you thing, but I think it's worth it just to take what I have to say into serious consideration. For his closing thoughts, I do not blame anyone for being doubtful of me through this whole process. I could have handled certain aspects better, and I will reflect on the situation as a whole. I tried my best to be as clear and concise as possible throughout the second document. If there's anything that's unclear, I don't mind trying to clarify things, but this will be the last time I make a statement on the situation, so we can hopefully move forward and heal from this. So what are my opinions? And yes, I am still sick, guys. I think that Fenn showed that Ross is more interested in AI than he's telling, that even though he knows the conversation, maybe he doesn't care about it really. I think that if he wants to use AI, he should just be upfront with it. When I see how much miscommunication happened between Fenn and Ross about their situation involving money, I think it's the money part that ruined their friendship and nothing else. Because if you see, the interaction between them is very, very friendly. And there's just some things I just don't believe that you do if you're not friends with somebody. I believe he was fully friends with him. And when he started to pull back after he got paid, after he paid Fenn, I think he started feeling like things were hard boundaries and he didn't want to be close with him anymore because he saw that as a problem. I really do believe that. Either because he wanted to salvage the friendship, or he just didn't want to pay Fenn anymore, or he didn't want to have the headache to have to pay Fenn. Either way, he would prefer to have somebody who was not Fenn, because Fenn required a lot of payment to come. It didn't matter anything else in between. I do not believe that they weren't friends. They've known each other. They've been talking to each other too long, going for advice. You just don't giving them privileges, giving them power over, say, asking their that's too. You don't do that for some online person you barely know. That's just not the way of it. I think that Fenn was a little bit pushy. I think also that Fenn, it was a little bit too blunt. There was a way to... I feel that this friendship could be mended if the both of them could come together with a third person and talk everything over. I think that could fix it, because it's clear Ross is hurt and it's clear that Fenn is hurt. And I've seen some things people are saying about Fenn being an obsessive stalker fan. And what I'm seeing here, I just don't see that. And I know there's going to be people in the comments disagreeing with me. I've had stalkers. Those people are annoying as shit and they never leave you alone. This doesn't feel like I'm a fan. This feels like I'm a friend. And if he wasn't a friend, he shouldn't have let him have power over anything. He shouldn't have been. There's so many things that Ross shouldn't be doing if he really didn't see him as a friend. Like, sure, I could believe that maybe in 2022 he invited him as an acquaintance, and maybe in 2023 or 2024, whichever one, he didn't feel comfortable having to host Fenn at his house because he liked his space. I understand that. There's just a lot of things I do understand and I don't understand. But at the end of the day, it's a very complicated dynamic. But there's things I absolutely will not entertain. I'm not going to entertain that Fenn is a obsessed fan stalker. I just don't see that. I just don't see that. I'm sorry. And if Ross had such boundaries, he's known about Fenn he has been a friend or cool with him since 2022, and he's also talked about his own sex life with him without Fenn bringing it up. So I just don't think that you can't make me believe that Ross is stupid enough to, because if that's the case, you're telling me that I could just go sign up for Ross's Patreon, get in that Discord, talk in that Discord, and I was in that Discord. He is never fucking in there. He's never talking in there. Like, every time I was in there and I was talking, he was never in there. Who is bothering me? Stop texting. All I have to do is just be a pest for a year, and then I can pretend to be Ross's friend, and then I can go and meet Ross and do all this. Like, what? Ross is not stupid. I'm not stupid. Fenn's not stupid. We're all not stupid. I just can't get behind that. I feel like saying that they were never friends is fucking dumb. But Ross deciding to take away that friendship without telling Fenn, that's different. I feel that after the money was exchanged in July of 2024, he didn't want to be friends with Fenn anymore because it's too complicated. So he started to pull back, and it's clear he pulled back. So when Fenn came to him with all of this stuff, it felt too much for Ross because they probably hadn't been talking the whole time. You know what? I'm going to ask him. Hold on. I'm going to ask. Well, I did ask him, and I asked Fenn. And Fenn said that they had talked between Anime Expo and the 16 ways to improve. So who knows? Who knows what happened between them? But, I gave my theories. I have seen people harassing Fenn online. I think y'all need to stop that. Y'all need to stop that. I'm not picking any sides. I think that still, if you plan on buying Ross's book, you've seen the evidence. And as far as Fenn goes, he's mentioned before that if he had more followers, if he was more important in the art circles, things would be different. I do believe that's the case. I think Sam tried to help Ross out, and I think he has his own opinions. I know he's a big creator. Like, it's just messy, man. It's messy. I think that Ross said that he hopes that Fenn can, continue to do good, and he wishes luck on all his endeavors, and Fenn said the same thing, and that doesn't sound like something that was just between an obsessive fan and a big creator. That sounds like two people who were friends who cannot mesh. That's just my opinion. And wow, it is like very long video. Now, if you guys want to support the channel, you're feel free to go over to my Patreon, where I have a blog. I post my full res art. There's a lot of other stuff on there. I really like that support. If you would like to help me get verified on VGen, I do take commissions over there, where it is $12 for line art flats, or if you want me to help you with your world building, I do $7, and I will check over your world building. And if art critiques are important for you, I do that. I'm a mid-tier artist, so I'm not a top-tier professional, but that is included in your Patreon subscription. So what do you guys think? I don't know. It feels a little bit crazy to me. And I guess that's it. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Take care.